In Chapter 1, we talked about data, information, and knowledge. In this chapter, we will discuss how to properly process and store data before analyzing data and turn data into information and knowledge. In this video clip, we will talk about how to manage data. We will first discuss what are the common challenges in managed data and how these challenges can be addressed using data governance. There are several reasons that data is difficult to manage nowadays. We will go through each one of them in the following slides. The first reason is the amount of data is increasing exponentially over time. There are many sources that predict exponential data growth toward 2020 and beyond, which is this year and beyond. Yet, they are all in broad agreement that the size of the digital universe will double every 2 years at least, a 50-fold growth from 2010 to 2020, which is this year. Human and machine-generated data is experiencing an overall 10 times faster growth rate than traditional business data, and machine data is increasing even more rapidly at 50 times the growth rate. Let's take a look at some examples. 40,000 search queries are performed per second on Google alone, which makes it 3.46 million searches per day and 1.2 trillion per year. And every minute Facebook users send roughly 31.25 million messages and watch 2.77 million videos. On YouTube alone, 300 hours of videos are uploaded every minute. Since historical data must be kept for a long time and new data are added rapidly, how to process and manage a huge amount of data becomes an increasingly difficult issue. Another problem is that data are generated from multiple sources, which makes data even more difficult to manage. Data are generated from internal sources to your organization, such as corporate databases and company documents. Generated from sources outside or external to your organization, such as commercial databases and government reports. And generated from personal sources such as data that you collect and use. The next problem is new sources of data, such as videocasts, blogs, and podcasts. This data is difficult to store in a traditional database and need to be managed in a proper way. Data also comes from the web in form of clickstream data. Clickstream data are those data that visitors and customers produce when they visit a website on hyperlinks. Data are also subject to data rot. Data rot refers primarily to problems with the media on which the data are stored. This means over time, temperature, humidity, and exposure to light can cause physical problems with storage media and thus make it difficult to access the data. And over time, it could be more and more difficult to find the machines needed to access the data. Data security, quality, and integrity are critical as well, yet they are not easy to maintain. Data integrity is the maintenance of and assurance of the accuracy and consistency of data over its entire life cycle. To deal with the difficulties in data management, there has to be some form of data governance in organization, as how you manage information across the entire enterprise. We usually do data governance using master data management. That is how you manage information consistently, accurately, and timely across the entire organization. It provides companies with the ability to store, maintain, exchange, and synchronize a consistent, accurate, and timely single version of the truth for the company's master data. It is important to distinguish between master data and transaction data. Master data is core data, referring to data related to customers, products, employees, vendors, and so on, that span the entire enterprise information systems. Transaction data is generated and captured by operational systems and describes the business activities or transactions. In contrast, the master data are applied to multiple transactions and are used to categorize, aggregate, and evaluate the transaction data. I want to emphasize here the relationship between master and transaction data is master data can be applied to multiple transactions and can be used to categorize, aggregate, and evaluate the transaction data. For example, this table shows the sales transactions. Each row is a transaction, which describes the business activity. Okay, now please think about this question. What is the master data in this table? The master data are the two employees in the table, which are Sally and Huang. Remember, master data is the core data that can be applied to multiple transactions and can be used to categorize, aggregate, and evaluate the transaction data. Here, we can aggregate the transaction data using master data and find out what is the total sales amount for Huang and Sally and what is the total number for sales for Huang and Sally respectively. In the next video clip, we will learn the database approach and specifically study the relational databases.